YouTube Ozick Owen, the Goat House is back. After day one of the NFL draft, here with my winners and losers. I will grade every single first round pick in a video tomorrow. Maybe the time you're listening to this, it's up or close to being up. But yeah, going to break down winners and losers. Going to break down some of the picks, questionable picks, interesting picks, best value picks, best fit picks, and at the very end, the top tier winners of day one, a video I do every year. So I'm really excited about it. We have more content on the way. Like I said, grades for day one, day two mock draft, and more. We're going to have some shorts go up as well. Make sure you follow us on Twitter for live analysis for every single pick, day 2 and 3. Link pinned in the comments for that. Make sure you like, subscribe to notifications down. We got the coverage. We were live today during day one. You can check out the replay of that stream. We have sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV. I have a chain on from GLD Shop. They have NFL teams and more. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. You can pause the screen on this if you want to. Right now, here's our schedule for the whole weekend here. It's also on Twitter. To the questionable picks of day one, so someone I want to talk about. Lucas Van Ness to the Packers at 13 isn't super questionable. Not everyone will agree with me that maybe even it is a little bit. I think he has a lot of upside. It's a boomer bust player here with a lot of upside. I had him ranked 31 overall on my board. I thought he was a later round one guy, if that. So the Packers taking him at 13. It's a little interesting to say the least there. It is their sort of their type of pass rusher. I think Myles Murphy also is, and I like Murphy actually a lot better. My thing with Van Ness is he won a lot. Well, he didn't start, and then he won a lot on the inside quite a bit. Will he be able to do what he did on the inside in the NFL against NFL guards? I don't think so. He does have a lot of upside on the outside. I like his get off. I like his length and his athleticism. Some power in there too. It's a guy you want to work with because he has those traits to him, But yeah, I mean, everyone would have liked for the Packers to go Jackson Smith and Jigba. If they were to go pass rusher, I actually preferred Myles Murphy, like I said. So it's a little bit questionable, little interesting pick. Super questionable pick, which is a shock. The shocking thing of the day, and even more shocking to probably a lot of you out there, but to me, because Brad Holmes has been killing it. Not only has he been killing it, he's been taking guys that I've been really high on, guys that I love as a fit. And this is like the first time I'm disagreeing with Brad Holmes, and it was with Jack Campbell. You're not only disagreeing, but like we're like super far apart because Jack Campbell, I might be lower on Jack Campbell in the world. If you've been following us, then you know that. I watched the tape. I was not thrilled about it. What I saw, I will see back several plays with him running into blocks, putting himself, in position to get blocked, reacting super late, which would result in, a lineman getting downfield and blocking him. So, and then not the most athletic guy. I know the 3-cone drill was very good, so maybe he's quicker than you think, but yeah, today's NFL linebackers are pretty speedy. Doesn't really have that. That's a small part of it though. So I thought it was a big time reach at 18. They also brought back Anzalone. They like Malcolm Rodriguez there. I think he's going to have a hard time beating those guys out. We're going to see, especially with CJ Gardner-Johnson, we're just going to see, like most of the NFL, two linebackers out there for the most part. So, and Rodrigo and Anzalone, they're not the best linebackers in the world. They're pretty solid for them last year, and Rodrigo got upside. So, that's a questionable one there. Very surprising. Like the first time I really disagree with Brad Holmes. So, one of us is going to be right, one of us is going to be wrong. We were both in agreement on everything else that Brad Holmes has done in the last 2 years. Right after the draft 2 years ago, I graded the Lions the best draft in football, and that kind of turned out. And last year, I graded them the second best draft in football. These are immediately after the draft, and we're just getting started here with this one. But I head scratcher. I'm very surprised. I was not a Jack Campbell guy. The people that were Jack Campbell guys were like early to mid-second round. So even to them, it's a little bit of a head-scratcher. Kalijah Kancey to the Buccaneers. So the Buccaneers, I even said it before, that they have a lot of fits, I thought, in this class. And they didn't take one of those guys that I thought were obvious fits. They take Kalijah Kancey, which he has a good group of people that like him, I guess, a large crowd. And I do like him as well. Explosive as a pass rusher. I thought he would go to a 4-3 team and play the 3 technique role. He goes to a 3-4 team. Now, where are they going to play him? Vita Vea is a nose tackle, but there's some thought about him playing more of the D tackle because he's that good. And they bring in get Greg Gaines, who's a nose tackle, and they have Logan Hall as kind of the 3-4 end, but could be a 3-4 outside linebacker with a little more athleticism. So the potential of moving him back, which maybe he did get some snaps there a little bit, and then playing Kancey, Vea, and Gaines a possibility, or it's a possibility, that they just use Kancey on passing downs and use Logan Hall, Kancey, Vita Vea, guys like that on passing downs because Greg Gaines is going to be an early down guy, but if you took him at 19, just use him on passing downs, and that's maybe a little questionable. I mean, you got an explosive guy that gets after the quarterback. My issue with him is, he's the length, serious question, but more so how often are teams going to use him? Kind of going on what I was saying. Are they going to use him on passing downs only? Because he relies on his like right off the ball. And if the offensive linemen have him, it's hard for him to get off those blocks. So how often you can have him? I would imagine the Bucs to be at 19, they're going to use him a bit. And he could get that pass rush productivity. It's a little interesting on the fit. And I was a little surprised he went there. I thought he was going to go later than where he was being mocked, and that was later than 19. So, interesting one, but he was a very good player at Pittsburgh, and you do like the upside, the flashiness. Chargers taking Quentin Johnston from TCU. Again, not super, super questionable. I really thought Jordan Addison was their guy. I really thought it. His former receiver coach is there. It just makes so much sense as a fit because he can play that outside receiver role, and he's kind of a shifty separator on the outside, and they don't have that, in LA. And then he also dominated the slot in Pittsburgh when he played there. And Keenan Allen on an expiring contract this year, so he can fill that role if he's gone too. And again, former receiver coaches over there. So I thought that made a lot of sense. Quentin Johnston is Mike Williams' body type, nowhere near as good of a contested catcher, but maybe a little faster, can get kind of creative with him, underneath. Kind of got to scheme things open for him, though. He's a boomer bust guy. I do like his chances with Justin Herbert, of course. But, got to high point the ball better, got to run routes better, more routes as well, and got to catch the ball better. A lot of body catches and even drop the ball with that. But there are a lot of flashy things. Big body guy, gets to play with Justin Herbert, pretty fast for his size. Very athletic for his size, explosive, and very good after the catch. So, going to be fun to watch. I'm just shocked they took him ahead of Jordan Addison. I thought Jordan Addison was their guy all day. Jordan Addison was my number 2 receiver, and he was still on the board here. Dalton Kincaid for the Bills. They actually trade up ahead of the Cowboys to get him. I know the Cowboys were maybe in on the tight ends, but weird that they had to have a tight end when they have Dawson Knox, and he somewhat recently got a pretty big contract. And the Bills been looking for, I actually mocked him, my last mock, Josh Downs, because I felt like they were looking for that slot receiver. They've been looking for that slot receiver. They finally get that slot guy, but it's a tight end. It's a slot tight end. It could be a mismatch problem, and he's going to be productive like he was, especially with Josh Allen. He'll be productive, but at the same time, Knox is tight end 1, and you can use both. I understand. You probably use Knox in line a little bit more than Kincaid. Kincaid a lot in the slot. Who can line up in line? It is a little weird. They're insisting and not going with the receivers, but you do get a receiver like tight end. Again, I think he'll be productive. How many snaps compared to Knox? Does this knock Knox at all? I know you can use them both, but you're not going to use both of them 100% of the time. It's just nobody's doing that. So, it's I think probably surprised some people there. And then Mozzie Smith for the Cowboys at 26. I wonder if they're going to take Kincaid. I was surprised they didn't take Mayer or an interior offensive lineman. I know they definitely need another inside guy on the defensive line, but here you got Mozzie Smith, who played some nose and played some D tackle, and he's a well-known guy. I liked him in the second round, though. For me to take a guy like that isn't, is a bigger run stopping guy on the inside that can play nose tackle and D tackle. Like, for me to take a guy like that, he has to be a little more flashy. Get the backfield production. He doesn't really have the backfield production. He's really good at stopping the run. He's more of a wait till the run comes to him, till the ball comes to him. Now, that's pretty close to the line of scrimmage, but I would like some more backfield production for me to take a guy like this. It's just not It's not a super sexy pick, which every pick doesn't have to be super sexy, right? And I like Dan Quinn as developing guy, so maybe he gets more out of Mozzie Smith. But yeah, I was a little surprised they didn't go elsewhere, and it was a little early. I thought he had a shot to sneak into the first round. I thought it would be the last pick with the Chiefs, which he might have went there if he was available. But I did not expect him to go 26 here, so a little surprising. And, of course, there was a lot of interesting picks on day one of the NFL draft. It was a very interesting draft, and it still is as we're going to keep going here. But the interesting picks or moments that stood out to me, starting with the Falcons at 8, taking Bijan Robinson. Yeah, there was some talk actually about them taking Bijan Robinson. I wasn't really buying it because I didn't really think, even though Arthur Smith and that offense valued running the football, did they value running back a whole lot? I mentioned the story about me really thinking they were going to take Javonte Williams that year, like perfect fit, and then they traded away from that pick. The Broncos took that pick in the trade and took Javonte Williams. So right there and there, I'm like, yeah, they're going to value running the football. I mean, they're going to value the pick. They're going to be able to find some other guys. And then that year they used Cordero a ton at running back, which was great. And they draft Algier late, and we knew that was going to be a big-time a productive guy for them, and he was better than expected even. So then all of a sudden they really value running back. But when the pick happened, I'm kind of like, I guess there's a certain time anybody can value running back, and that's when one of the best running back prospects in a long time is on the board. So there you go. Maybe a little surprising to me, maybe not you out there, but for the reasons I explained. But he's going to be really good for them. Cordero will still be effective for sure in his unique ability. One of my favorite players in the league, so they'll be able to use him still. And Algier gets a knock definitely in his snaps, but they get a big-time running back. The big thing here is he can catch the ball very well, not only out of the backfield, but getting downfield as well. So it's just going to make that offense even better, and they're going to insist on Ritter, and he's going to have some help out there. So I wonder if Tyree Wilson was there, if they were going to take him. There's always those moments in every draft, so you kind of wonder. And the Bears, very interesting pick at number 10, Darnell Wright. I talked about it. Some guys predicted that. I did not. I was saying I didn't really see the scheme fit, but it ended up happening. So it is a very interesting pick, but I did have, and I think, like I was saying, like everyone was saying pretty much, I think they wanted Paris Johnson Jr. He was off the board. So they trade back one spot, and they take Darnell Wright, who is obviously their second best lineman in the class. He was my number one tackle. My number one tackle in the class, because I'm a big fan of Darnell Wright, and he's going to have very much so help the pass protection for Justin Fields here, so that's going to be fantastic. Running scheme, run blocking scheme is where he really doesn't really feel like a fit. They're going to try to change it for him, because a lot of gap blocking, if you go watch Tennessee, like a ton, like barely any outside zone, which the Bears are really pushing. They're really trying to run. But maybe they mix some, different running styles in there, different blocking schemes in there as well. Because I was so high on Wright, I was higher on him than anyone, so I was really hoping he went to like a perfect fit where I would be like, okay, he's going to be good. I'm going to be right on Wright. So it's maybe a little bit of an adjustment going to the Bears, who are kind of a rebuild team here, but the offensive line is very much coming together. I like Braxton Jones a lot. They add Nate Davis at guard. Now they have Wright, who's going to play right tackle. So maybe they really liked that he was already a right tackle. Maybe they really liked that. I do like that they trade back spot and get like a free, basically. And they could have taken Jalen Carter. That's the thing about that. They move back one spot and get a 4th-round pick next year. That's pretty awesome for moving back one spot. But, Jalen Carter's a big-time player. Would have been great for Eberflus's defense, and their D-line is rough. It looks like the worst D-line in football. So I understand there's probably some Bears fans who are like, I'd rather just stay at 9 and take Jalen Carter. Why did we do this? So I definitely could understand that. I'm a Darnell Wright fan. I would have been more of a Darnell Wright fan in the perfect scheme fit. That didn't happen, but I am curious. The Bears could mix it up a little bit, and he is going to help pass protect Justin Fields, which is huge, and you get a 4th-round pick out of this. So overall, it is a very interesting pick, but overall you get a really good tackle who I was pretty high on. This was a super interesting pick. We talked about the Lions in the last slide as well, but the Lions taking Jahmyr Gibbs, at 12. They actually traded back from 6. We feel pretty confident that they were going to take Witherspoon at 6, but the Seahawks somewhat surprisingly took him at 5, who I could have put on this list as well. But we knew he was going to go around that range. So they moved back to 12, and then 2 running backs go in the top 12. Who would have thought that? But we got some special running backs in this class. So this is very surprising, very interesting. Some people hate the pick. I don't really hate it. I am surprised he went higher than where he is in my board, and I have him at 16. But I've always loved me some Jahmyr Gibbs. Was very high on him when he was at Georgia Tech. I saw him play, and I'm like, that's a future NFL running back for sure. He goes to Bama, and I was kind of like, yeah, I think I was right because he's at Alabama now. Tears it up there. He's a unique weapon. He's a very good route runner, very good pass catcher, incredible after the catcher. With the ball in his hands, really. The questionable part about this is, I guess not so much that it's early, just based on value, like the talent of the player. I don't really think it's early. It looks early because we did not expect it, but maybe if there is an issue with this, it's as if you take a running back this early, 12, the second best running back in class at 12, like, you got to use this guy. If you take a running back in an early second round, like, even then, you got to use that guy a ton. So you have to use this guy a ton while you have David Montgomery, who you decided to go for and pay a little bit more over keeping a huge big-time captain in Jamal Williams for even a little bit less. And you have DeAndre Swift. Could he be traded? Some people talking about that. I don't know if that's a thing, but so that's what makes it very interesting to me, because how many snaps? He's good, and you picked him this high. He better get a lot of snaps, but how many is he really going to get? Extremely intriguing. But I love the ball player here. 15, the Jets took Will McDonald, Will McDonald was kind of one of my guys because I had him 4th on my edge rusher rankings, which was pretty high. And early 20s on my board, and I think he's a good ball player. He can move around at different spots. He can drop in coverage if you need to, but if you just let him get after the quarterback, from outside the tackle, more than Iowa State did, which I can almost guarantee it's gonna be more than Iowa State did because they had a 3-man rush a lot, and he actually rushed from inside or over the tackle. So going back, if you let him rush even more, which he will outside the tackle, he's gonna be even more productive. So it's a guy that Robert Saleh could get creative with, could have some fun with. It could be kind of his Leo pass rusher here. The more I talk about it, the more I kind of realize it kind of is a fit. And I've always liked McDonald. I've been high on him. So overall, it's surprising. It's wasn't expected at all. I kind of like it in a way though, So, but they got so many pass rushers in there. What's going to happen there? But big time pick last year. And Jermaine Johnson, we'll see if we see him a little bit more. Michael Clemens could be a sneaky guy, but they have Carl Lawson, who they're waiting to break out. Franklin Myers moves around a bit. He'll actually play a little bit more inside. Like, he'll play inside of McDonald. Actually, on the same side, too. That's where you got McDonald. You can have him standing up on one side, and then you can say Carl Lawson or Jermaine Johnson hand in the dirt on the other side. Franklin Myers right inside Will McDonald. It looks pretty. It looks a little pretty. But a surprising pick here. Maybe some Jets fans are kind of scratching their heads, but I liked him. So if you value my opinion at all, I liked him, and as I'm talking, I'm realizing it's a little bit more of a fit than I thought as well. So interesting pick. Kind of like it. I actually predicted this one to happen. I thought the Commanders would do something a little surprising and take Forbes over Porter Jr. and Banks. They did that. But what I didn't know is they were going to take him over Christian Gonzalez. So that is maybe the questionable part about it. You got my number 5 overall player, the top corner in the draft, still available. I don't really understand what the problem was with him. It's a complete package type corner, very good in man and zone. But the Commanders are a team, I've been saying it, they kind of decide who they're taking before the draft. I've been saying it. And that's kind of what they did here. But I do like Emmanuel Forbes. He was growing on me more and more. A guy I'm rooting for, a guy that I like, a playmaking guy. He's very thin, but playmaking guy. He's good in He's good in man and zone. That's what I like about him as well. Freak athlete, lengthy, just really thin. But it's a guy that was really growing on me, like bumping him ahead of other corners, and then he's starting to creep on Porter Jr. and Banks for me. So I think he'll be a good ball player for the Commanders. It is just it's going to be a surprising pick to a lot of people. Not so much me because I predicted to happen earlier today, and I was kind of feeling that too. But yeah, the downside is they passed on Gonzalez. The Jags trade back twice. I know the Jags fans, their dream was Brian Branch, and I can't believe Brian Branch is still available. I cannot believe it. Such a good ball player there. But yeah, their dream pick was Brian Branch, and they trade back all of a sudden trade pops up, so everyone's probably like, no. They trade back a spot, like, all right, they could still get him. And they trade back again, but they don't trade back too far. They could still get him. But then they grab that tackle, and it kind of makes sense because they lost Jawan Taylor, who they really wanted back, and then Cam Robinson's going to be suspended. So I think they came into the day knowing, all right, we don't love the situation. This is exactly what it was. We don't love the situation that we didn't get our guy Taylor back, and now Robinson's going to be suspended, and we have some injury concern with Robinson and Walker Little, even though they're pretty good tackles that could start. We don't love the situation, but we're coming in this draft, and we need a tackle. And there are some decent ones, but we're gonna have to get a guy. We don't want to overdraft a guy, so let's trade back. And hey, they traded back twice. They got some picks, and they get Anton Harrison, who was kind of I thought more of an early round 2 guy, but kind of a borderline guy. I mean, you like the build and the combination of, size, power, athleticism, and he played well for Oklahoma. Oklahoma just ran some RPO scheme that just isn't really NFL-like, blocking schemes. So that's the tricky part with him. But I think Doug Peterson's good with that style with system RPO in his schemes. It's still a little different, though, but I think they'll be able to coach that up. I think they coached up the offensive line pretty well this past year, first year being in there. So I think he'll be a pretty solid player for them. But there is a scenario where if Robinson's not suspended and Walker Little's healthy, like he was at the end of the year, like those are the 2 best tackles, even though they both only played left tackle last year. Little just filled in for Robinson, but those could be the best 2 tackles on the team, and if they're both on the dressed, they could be both on the field. So your first round pick here could be on the bench at some point. That's a tough part. But if he gets to start the year, that's a pretty good sign because Robinson's gonna be suspended. So if he gets to start the year, that's a pretty good sign for maybe him keeping his job. He's kind of an upside guy because again the scheme's a little bit different. So it is very interesting. The positive here is that they traded back twice and got some picks. And then some other thing I want to add in here that was very interesting, the 1-pick trade-ups. I do not love 1-pick trade-ups, so I do find those interesting. The Eagles traded up 1 spot. I know they had to have Carter, but I guess they were worried about the Steelers going up. We knew the Bears weren't going to take them if they're willing to trade. They still do. We'll talk about the Eagles a little bit more here in a little bit, but and then the Giants, trading up 1 spot, and I do like who they got. Mainly fit-wise with Banks, but trading up 1 spot, that late in the first is just unheard of. It's a little weird. Just kind of just stay put and get your guy. You're really worried that somebody was going to trade up 1 spot ahead of you to get Banks, so it was a little interesting. The pick itself, again, for both these Eagles and Giants, 2 NFC East teams, I'm definitely not hating against those, because I like those picks. But yeah, some interesting stuff that caught my eye there. To the best value picks of day 1. So best value where you took them. I got to use my board for this because what else would I would use? My evaluations on the players. Number 1 in terms of best value pick is got to be Christian Gonzalez and the Patriots. He's my number 1 corner, elite grade because he's a complete package corner, and he's number 5 on my big board. Love his ability in press, off, man, and zone. See the instincts in zone. See how locked down like he is in man. And he's a playmaker on top of it. He has elite athleticism. He has great length as well. The Patriots steal him where they picked him, and they traded back, gained something, and still got Christian Gonzalez. So this is just tremendous, tremendous value. And then Gonzalez is going to be good with the Patriots. Bill Belichick, his work with corners, The man coverage ability and the man coverage that they run, I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. It's pretty crazy that they actually traded back and got him. Was shocked on how far he fell. The Bengals, my number 2. I'm a big Myles Murphy guy. To me, he has everything but a collection of pass rush moves, which can be coached up. It's coached up all by teammates I've seen. So coaches can coach it up for sure. And how about a staff that, is very good at making their players better, at coaching up their player, especially on defense we've seen the last couple of years. So that makes sense for Myles Murphy. He was actually my number 2 edge rusher in the class, number 12 overall player, because I love the upside. He has the power, athleticism, length, and he knows how to use the length. He stops the run already. He can win with the bull rush. He's got to add a little bit more moves to his game, and he can be special. So love that value pick all the way at the end of the first round. And I got C.J. Stroud at 3. I mean, he's my number 1 overall player in the draft. Best quarterback in the class. Elite accuracy for a prospect. He was getting better and better every step of the way. We saw that in the Georgia game. Love the pocket movement. Love the big playability. Love the arm strength, the velocity on the ball placement, the touch on his throws. Number 1 player in the draft, and the Texans get him at 2. So maybe it doesn't look like a giant room for crazy value, but he's my number 1 player in the draft. And the Texans, it didn't sound like they're going to take him there, and they take him. It's exactly what they needed. So got to give him some love for that one. I put that at 3. 4, Jalen Carter, who could be a little bit higher, but they did. I do factor in trades when I talk about value of the picks. Not just the player, but so they do trade up 1 spot, which I do not like 1 spot trade ups. Stay put, relax. The team's not going to take them if they're willing to trade back. Steelers end up trading for an alignment anyway, so I don't know if they were trading up for Carter. So that might knock it a tiny bit, but they still get my number 3 overall player in the draft up at 9. So it's not crazy there, but they still get a really good player. And if he doesn't have the off-the-field issues and he gets in a little bit better shape where he can play the whole game and finish through at the high level, then he could be the best talent in this class. So the Eagles get a really good one here. I mean, not the biggest need, but they get a big-time talent there. Number 5, I'll go Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is my number 1 receiver in the class, 14th overall player, and they get him down at 20 for the Seahawks. So that's pretty good value there, and should make an instant impact and pair in well with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett with a pretty damn good trio for Geno Smith there. So those are my top 5 value picks. To my best fit picks of day 1 of the NFL draft. Number 1, I got to go with Jordan Addison with the Vikings. Some thought that he could be gone before then too, but just love the fit replacing Adam Thielen. I mean, you got a guy in Addison that could work with the motion game, which the Vikings do a lot as well, but a guy that this year with USC played mainly outside, was very effective there. Previous season with Pittsburgh dominated the inside, so a guy that can play both inside and out, kind of like Jefferson, kind of like Thielen did. You like mixing those guys up a little bit. Osborne plays a bit on the inside, so he fits kind of system-wise, scheme-wise. They'll use him in the motion game. They'll get him the ball and in screen passes. He's a very good separator downfield as well, but you can use him in multiple ways. So just multiple ways. It just seemed like in the whole draft, the best replacement for Adam Thielen, and they end up getting him. They ended up getting him at 23. So maybe some thought they could trade down, but maybe just too good to pass there. So the fit wise, and really value wise, he almost made that last list. That was great for the Vikings. Another great fit. I know I don't love trading up 1 spot, but the Giants get Deonte Banks, who's a phenomenal press man corner, and that's what the Giants do. They run press man. They run more man coverage than anyone. Maybe just ahead of the Patriots. They're towards the top as well. And so you got the corner, of the draft that is press man, physical. Don Martindale going to love him, and they did love him. So they made sure that we talked about that in the past, how that's a great fit. So they land him. So we're talking about some of the same guys we just talked about again, but I love the fit of Myles Murphy with the Bengals. Long, powerful, physical defensive end, kind of fits in there with Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. Hubbard almost can slide inside the tackle sometimes. So you could use all 3, but I love the fit there because it's like the style, the type of pass rusher they like, but he's got more athleticism as well. He's kind of Trey Hendrickson and Hubbard. Of course, he's not going to be as good as them right away, but with the upside because the crazy athleticism, and it's just so perfect because the Lou Anarumo and the Bengals staff, they work so good at getting the most out of these defensive players, all the players, but defensive players specifically. And we seen 2 years ago, they really started to get a lot out of that defensive line specifically. So if there's a fit for Murphy to get the most out of him, to coach him up, what he needs is just kind of to add some moves to his game to be special. It's just so perfect. It's so perfect. So absolutely love that fit there, and it was a steal. And then Patriots or Christian Gonzalez was a steal, but I mean, he's good in man and zone. That's why he's so great, but he's really good in press man, like a lockdown guy. And that's what the Patriots look for there. I guess if there's one thing, I hope the Patriots run a little bit more zone because he's pretty instinctive in zone as well. So mix it up a little bit. Could this be the next Stephon Gilmore for Bill Belichick and the Patriots? Maybe, like that fit. And we threw Will Anderson in here for the Texans. I also talked about Tyree Wilson being a potential great fit for the Texans and in different ways than Anderson. Tyree Wilson could have been like the Ark Armstead for DeMeco Ryans. Will Anderson could be that Nick Bosa style. Is he going to be as good as Nick Bosa? Maybe not, because Nick Bosa is very, very, very special, but Will Anderson's very special, and he could be very, very good, but he's that explosive, get-off, home run hitting type edge rusher for DeMeco Ryans, comparable to Nick Bosa somewhat, so I did like that fit as well. And I'm glad they made that choice over Tyree Wilson there. That made a little bit more sense to me. So those are my favorite fit picks and all. And then you kind of have to be a good pick to be on this list too. I'm not just going to find a fit that was like a reach, So and there's other fits like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. These ones kind of make me feel warm and fuzzy inside, if you know what I mean there. So, yeah. And then on to the winners of day one. The Texans gave up a haul to the Cardinals to go up. It was the Cardinals got well more than appropriate value, and that's why I kind of threw that in at the bottom. We'll talk about that, but you still got to put the Texans at 1. You get at 2 and 3, you get my number 1 and number 2 player in the draft, in C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. You fill your biggest needs. With quarterback and pass rusher. You get something special for DeMeco Ryans, his specialty on defense with that pass rusher, Will Anderson, the best in the class on defense. You're going to get a lot better getting after quarterback. You're plain and simple, you're going to get a lot better on defense. You got guys in the back end like Stingley and Petrie to work along with that as well. So that makes a lot of sense. You get better at the most important position of football. You get my number 1 guy in the most important position of football. The Texans, ladies and gentlemen, got a lot better, and it is a future thing, but they get a lot better day 1 of this upcoming NFL season. So they did trade away a lot to go up to the Cardinals pick. They gave up a little bit of a haul, but plain and simple, this is a haul here. So I have to go Texans 1. I got to go Patriots 2, getting Gonzalez, my number 5 player, my number 1 corner, elite player, complete package type corner for Bill Belichick and his defense. We know he's going to be great. Trading down, you mix that in with the value, the winners here. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I think the best single pick of the draft. And I'm a big Myles Murphy guy, probably higher on him than everyone else. The Bengals getting him where they got him down there, and just an excellent fit. So glad that Lou Anarumo is still there because he's going to get the most out of him. Myles Murphy's going to work out. He's going to work out because he went to the Bengals. This is a legit contender. I call them the Super Bowl favorites this offseason, and they get even better with a big-time pass rusher that can help them now in the pass and run game, but also has tons of upside there. Perfect. Then I thought the top 3 were just clear cut. Those were your top 3, clear cut. Then number 4, the Seahawks come away with 2 picks, and I know maybe even some fans aren't really thrilled, honestly, but you could look at it and say, maybe they didn't really fill needs. They needed a pass rusher, but they got some hope for, like a guy like Boye Mafe, who they drafted last year, and Nwosu was good for them, and maybe Darrell Taylor picks it up a little bit, but and they need to stop the run a little bit better. They could have got an interior guy too, so you could say they didn't really fill needs. It's really not about needs. It's just going out there and getting the best ball players you can get, and they get Devin Witherspoon, who's my number 8 player in the draft, is a big-time physical corner. It might help them mix things up a little bit in terms of their coverage, and you pair him with Tariq Woolen. You got a nasty cornerback duo, and then you get my number 1 receiver in the class, in a pretty good value spot there. So, and you don't have to trade around to do that, so you get two big time players, and, the Texans ended up being one. They had to trade around to do it, but the Seahawks, because the Texans got a little bit better, bigger time players, but, and they, we went over that, but, Seahawks got better, and they got big-time players, and Geno's got his weapons, a legit trio at receiver, a legit duo at corner, and they didn't have to move around to do it, so I put them at 4. And the Eagles at 5, getting 2 Georgia Bulldogs there. Jalen Carter, my number 3 overall player in the draft. We talked about it. Pretty good value. They did trade up one spot, which I factor in a little bit. And then Nolan Smith down at the bottom. And then people might be split on that. There's a lot of people that absolutely love Nolan Smith. I love his athleticism. I love his way that he can stop the run. He can drop in coverage, but that's actually the range I had him in. I had him, graded as a bottom of the first guy. So it's a good pick down there, but it's not like, there's some people that are going to be like, wow, what a freaking pick. There is a lot to get excited about. You got good players, you got better, unique players, 2 Georgia Bulldogs, good place to pick them from, right? But yeah, I'm not saying that's like a crazy value pick down there. But they get, they come away with a pretty good, somewhat of a haul there on defense. So you kind of have to rank the Eagles in there, right? Almost threw the Vikings in there because Addison was such a really good fit. I kind of assume he was their number 1 receiver. We talked about that in the past. Like, maybe wouldn't get by that pick. So that's kind of the perfect guy to replace Adam Thielen. And there was some thought that maybe he wouldn't be there. So that was kind of a almost perfect, for offense, perfect scenario. They were pretty much set, the Vikings, because they could have taken Will Levis, but more so their perfect fits on defense were their Branch and Banks. I mean, those were perfect fits on defense, so they were pretty much set. There was no way, like, it would have been a big L if they would have went somewhere completely random, because, like, there was so many good fits there. And I did what I meant. The Cardinals, like, the downside, okay, first the pick, Paris Johnson Jr., you got better on the offensive line. It's not like a wow pick. Like, you're not a big winner because of that pick. Not that it is at all bad. Not that at all. Love the fit. It was their best offensive line fit for them. But and the downside is maybe you passed on some great talent. Maybe fans would have just preferred them to stay at 3 and take Will Anderson. I think that was kind of probably maybe what the fans wanted. But you trade down and you get tremendous value, a pretty damn good haul with the Texans. Well over appropriate value. You got that future pick next year. And then you use a tiny bit of, not really it, but like part of your picks that you already like kind of gained in, to move back up to make sure you get your guy, and you still gained a lot at the end of the day. I think they did very well with what they wanted to do. I think they did very well with value and some kind of there. So they're not really a huge winner because, again, you got a good player, you got who you wanted, but you didn't you kind of passed on some big time players. But I do want to shout them out for getting some good trade value there and being a little, once you made the first move and got a haul, being a little smart with it with the next trade too as well. So thought that made some sense as well. But yeah, there you have it for day 1. Hope you guys enjoyed. The next video, which would be earlier tomorrow, which is day 2, well before day 2, I will grade every single first round pick, so I'll put that together, and then we will have my day 2 mock draft. I'll probably make a short, YouTube short with my best remaining players. We're always talking about this stuff on Twitter. Live analysis on every single pick, day 2 and 3 on our Twitter as well. Link pinned in the comments that'll bring you directly to that. I highly recommend following that. Please like, subscribe, turn notifications on. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching.